No, you fool! Iggy, you fool! I told you not to hang them up that way! Hello, my victims, and welcome to the Jony Horror Show. This week, we will be discussing the element of comedy in the horror genre and various successes and failures throughout its existence. And so, without any further ado, and with no more delay, we proudly present to you a brief history of the horror comedy. And so, my friends, we are going to start at the best place to start, which is usually more or less, sometimes maybe not the beginning. Who knows? I don't know. Sometimes you start at the end. What we do know is that at the beginning of the 18th century...
That was weird. In order to truly appreciate the history of the horror comedy, we have to go back to the beginning. When Universal Pictures released Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, many considered this film to be the first film that was successful in blending horror and comedy together on the big screen. The following decade was dominated specifically by sequels to this film. In the 1960s, we met a man-eating plant in the Roger Corman film, The Little Shop of Horrors. It would be about 15 years before the horror comedy broke any new ground, with the release of Mel Brooks' parody of old monster movies, Young Frankenstein, which is a personal favorite of mine. The horror comedy would hit a milestone with the 1977 release of the film version of the British play The Rocky Horror Show. It has since gained a cult following and is without a doubt the most pivotal moment for the horror comedy of this decade.
It's just a jump to the left. And a step to the right. You put your hands on your hips. And bend your knees in time. But it's the pelvic thrust that really drives you insane.
Let's do the time warp again! The lineup for horror comedies in the 1980s include, but are not limited to,
Motel Hell, American Werewolf in London, Funhouse, Munsters Revenge, Creepshow, Celebrity Party Massacre, Sleepaway Camp, Ghostbusters, Gremlins, Fright Night, Reanimator, Return of the Living Dead, From Beyond, Terror Vision, Night of the Creeps, Evil Dead 2, The Lost Boys, The Monster Squad, The Witches of Eastwick, Beetlejuice.
At the end of the 1980s, we get some of that dark slapstick humor bleeding over into the early 1990s. Addams Family, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, Army of Darkness, a lot of that goofy, over-the-top, but still really dark humor. The mid-1990s all the way through the end of the 1990s was the dawn of the satire, with the success of the Scream franchise and other horror films making fun of horror movie tropes inside the horror movies themselves. The early 2000s were not particularly kind to the horror comedy, with The Seed of Chucky, which is a personal favorite of mine. I'm not saying it's good. Scary Movie and Scary Movie 2. Even Scream 3 becomes a parody of the original Scream movies and is considered a low point for the franchise. However, the horror comedy gets an adrenaline shot to the chest in 2004 with the release of Shaun of the Dead, a film that not only reinvigorates the zombie genre, but also manages to be fucking hilarious and sweet as hell. Take car, go to mom's, kill Phil, grab Liz, go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for all this to blow over. Now how's that for a slice of fried gold? Over the next 5 years, we are treated to some badass horror comedies. Slither, Teeth, Zombie Strippers, Dead Snow, and Zombieland. It's a good 5 years for horror comedy. In 2012, we would get a game changer with the release of the Drew Goddard directed film Cabin in the Woods.
Ah, yes, well, how delightful.
What We Do in the Shadows, which I know many of you consider to be your favorite horror comedy. It's up there for me. I watched it just recently and I thought it was great. The scene where the vampire's dancing and he's just like, dude, I just did a dance for my friends and you ruined it. They were really digging it. It was great. What I love about it is the simplicity of it. It's just these guys and their day-to-day lives and the bullshit that ensues. If I had to pick my favorite all-time horror comedy, it is without a doubt Rob Zombie's The Haunted World of El Superbeasto. The only problem with it is that he has not made a sequel to it. I would love to see more adventures of El Superbeasto. Hell, it'd probably make a great television series. Now there's an idea. A TV show about a character in a world of horror and the adventures that ensue. Wonder what we would call it. The Something Horror Show. Before I forget, I just want to say thank you to everybody who commented and told me your favorite horror comedies. There was a lot of you guys. You guys had so much to share, so many good things, a lot of movies I haven't even seen yet, and now I have a list of things that I need to watch. If you guys like my videos, like, subscribe, comment, share. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it.
Well, my friends, we've come to the end of our journey. But before you go, I have one final thing to say. Will you fuck yourselves?
Look out, Nicole Arbor. I got some cleavage that'll knock your socks off.